All right. Yo, what's good? So, today we're going to be taking a look at the Eastern Conference, and we're going to do a tier list for them today. We're going to rank all of these Eastern Conference teams over how I see the rest of the season playing out and how they'll perform in the playoffs. It is currently January 23rd. We have just gotten news of the Terry Rozier trade and of the firing of Adrian Griffin for the Milwaukee Bucks. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and get right into it. Our first team is going to be the Atlanta Hawks. So, the Atlanta Hawks this year, let's see, they are 18 and 25. Trae Young has been Trae Young, but there really hasn't been a whole lot of help for him outside of Trae. There's been a good amount of injuries. DeJounte Murray is probably going to get traded soon. I'm not too confident about them. I'm going to put them here. We're just going to call this a meh tier. So let's take a look at the Atlanta Hawks a little bit more in depth here. So we got Trae Young. Trae Young's averaging 27 and 11. How he does. DeJounte has been good, if not a little inefficient. But other than that, they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. DeAndre Hunter, Jalen Johnson have missed a good amount of time. Clint Capella and DeJounte may both be moved by the trade deadline. So we don't know how their depth is going to look going into the second half of the season. I think I'm comfortable keeping them here. In this just kind of meh tier, they might make the play-in. I don't see them winning a play-in game. Definitely not making it into the playoffs. Our second team is going to be the Celtics. If you watched my first video on the channel, you'll know that I am very high on the Celtics. I am personally a Celtics fan. I'm going to put them in a contender tier. They have been the class of the Eastern Conference so far this year, and I don't really see a whole lot of teams in the East making a playoff run against them. Maybe the Miami Heat, maybe the Orlando Magic. We'll talk about both of those teams later on, but as for right now, I think the Boston Celtics are the clear-cut favorite in the East. And yeah, moving on, we got the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the Milwaukee Bucks have been a lot worse on defense than they have been in years previous under Mike Budenholzer. In their first year post-Budenholzer, they're one of the worst defenses in the Eastern Conference. They actually are giving up the fifth most points per game in the conference. It's just, it's hard to put a lot of faith in them right now, but it's hard to discount Giannis and Dame together. Ultimately, I'm going to put them in the contender tier as well, especially if they go ahead and hire Doc Rivers, as it's looking like they're going to do. Now we got the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat, we've seen it over the past few seasons, where they take it easy in the regular season, but once the playoffs hit, it's really a hard team to beat. Jimmy Butler always turns it on once April hits. Bam Adebayo is having his best season of his career. Just got Terry Rozier. Tyler Hero has been healthy. This is a tough team. That being said, they are the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. They're tied with the Indiana Pacers for a play-in spot. I have faith in them to make it into the playoffs, but I don't think I can see them in the contender tier until they can clearly get out of the play. So right now, we're going to put them in just a really good tier. This is a really good team, as I've been saying, but it's really hard to put a lot of faith in them, given that they may not even make the first round of the playoffs. Next, we got the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets right now are 17 and 25. They are the first team out of the play-in right now. They're half game behind the Hawks. This is a really balanced team. They got Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. Cam Thomas has been inconsistent this year. He scores a lot of buckets, but doesn't do a whole lot on anything else. I see the Brooklyn Nets pretty similarly to how I see the Hawks. They don't have the star power that the Hawks do, being Trae Young. So I just don't see them. They might make the play-in, but I don't see them going much farther than that unless a big trade happens. Now we got the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte Hornets just beat the 62-point game of the Minnesota Timberwolves last night. Very impressive. Brandon Miller looks like a great shooter, no pun intended. And This team might have a really bright future as long as they can retain their talent. In PJ Washington and in Miles Bridges. We don't like Miles Bridges. But this team looks like it has a bright future, just not this year. They're 10-31. They might as well be eliminated from the playoffs now. They're just bad. This is a bad tier. They're just stinky. They're not good. We're just going to call this a stinky tier. It's my video. I can do what I want. Now we got the Detroit Pistons. We're going to push the Detroit Pistons back a little bit. We're going to talk about them later. Toronto Raptors. They have blown up their team. Pascal Siakam is now on the Indiana Pacers. OG Anunoby is now on the New York Knicks. And Bruce Brown might be traded for another first-round pick coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Toronto Raptors being 16-28. They're 2 games back of the Brooklyn Nets. I didn't realize they were that bad this year. I don't see them being quite as bad as the Hornets, but I think they're in this meh tier. We might move things around a little bit. Next, we got the Indiana Pacers. Pacers team, one of the best offenses we have ever seen. By some metrics, the best offense we've seen in NBA history. That being said, they couldn't defend a cold. They could not stop anyone. You could have seen this from the Kings game that they played during the in-season tournament, where they scored over 300 points combined in regulation. They have an insane offense, but until they start developing on defense, I don't see them going very far in the playoffs. So I'm going to put them in this mid-tier. They're a play-in team. They might make the first round of the playoffs. If they play a 7-game series against the Celtics, Bucks, or Sixers, I don't really see them making that out of this round this year. But in the future, Tyrese Halliburton looks like he might be one of the best players in the league for the next 5-10 years. Watch out for the Pacers. Next, we have the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic this year are 23-21. They started the season off blistering hot. They were the 2nd seed in the East at one point. They play great defense. They were playing great defense earlier in the season. Now their net rating is only about 2 points. They're +2 this season. I think they're in a slump right now, but I think they can turn it on going into the second half of the season. That being said, I think they're still too young. I think they're a year away from being that next tier up. I'm going to put them in the play-in tier. We have the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic this year are 23-21. They started the season off blistering hot. They were the 2nd seed in the East at one point. They play great defense. They were playing great defense earlier in the season. Now their net rating is only about 2 points. They're +2 this season. I think they're in a slump right now, but I think they can turn it on going into the second half of the season. That being said, I think they're still too young. I think they're a year away from being that next tier up. I'm going to put them in the play-in tier. Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls are 21-24 so far this season. They're the 9th seed. Excuse me. Okay, we're just going to cut that. The Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls are the 9th seed in the East so far. They're 21-24. They have been rumored in trade talks for Zach LaVine, but it's looking more and more likely that Zach LaVine is not going to go anywhere at this year's trade deadline. He's making $45 million a year, and as soon as they took him out of the lineup, the Bulls went on a great run where they were just playing good team basketball that you didn't see them play with Zach LaVine. At this point, the Bulls are probably in meh tier. If they make a trade or two, get rid of Zach LaVine or Nikola Vucevic, depending on the return, I could see them going up or down a tier here. Philadelphia lost James Harden, gained a bunch of rotational pieces out of that trade, and they looked like one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. They're 4 games back of the number 1 seed Celtics, and they've shown that they can beat just about anyone on any given night. Joel Embiid just scored 70 last night. That's nothing to scoff at. He just broke a Wilt Chamberlain record. You don't see that happen too often in the modern NBA. At this point, with Joel Embiid's track record of not being the best in the playoffs, I see them in the same tier as the Miami Heat for different reasons. I think Miami Heat, once they get in the playoffs, they're going to be great. I don't have any doubt that the Sixers will get into the playoffs and maybe even win a series. But once that second series comes and they're playing either the Celtics or the Bucks in the second round, I think they're going to struggle. Next, we got the Washington Wizards. Washington Wizards are 7-35 this year. They're quite bad. It's hard to watch these Wizards. Jordan Poole, he's fine. Kyle Kuzma might get traded. I've seen rumors of Kyle Kuzma getting traded to the Kings. I don't know how credible those are, but if Kyle Kuzma gets traded, this might be the worst team in the NBA by a lot. There's just not enough talent here to see really any reason to take the Washington Wizards out of the bottom tier. They're just not good this year, and I don't think they're going to be good for a couple of years. Next, we got the New York Knicks. New York Knicks just traded for OG Anunoby about a month ago, and since then, they have been awesome. I love the style of offense that they've been playing so far this year. Julius Randle looks like he is back on his all-NBA pace. They're playing smart with the ball. They're playing their starters 40 minutes a night like Tom Thibodeau always does. I don't see them as contenders so far this year. I just haven't seen enough for them. But I think the Knicks have played their way into really good tier. They're just a great team. They're going to be a tough out no matter who plays them in the playoffs this year. Next up, we got the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland has been really good this year, especially as of late. They've won 8 straight. They're the 4th seed in the East right now at 26-15. Darius Garland looks really good. Donovan Mitchell, one of the best guards in the league. Evan Mobley, still playing about the same level as he was his rookie year, but he and Jared Allen are tough to score on. Ultimately, I see the Cavaliers also being in really good tier. They can beat anyone above them in a playoff series. I could see any one of those really good teams beating anyone in the East in a 7-game series. And I think each of them is just missing one thing. Like, I think the Knicks, we just need to see more. The Cavaliers need to get healthy. The Sixers, they need to prove themselves in the playoffs. And the Heat, well, they need to get to the playoffs. We just need to see more from each of these really good teams before I'm comfortable putting them as contenders. And I think it's only fair that to end the night, the Pistons get their own tier. So we're going to make it Pistons blue for them, and we're going to call it Pistons tier. Pistons are sitting at 4-39. They have been god awful. They've been so bad. Their Reddit has been delving into illegal activities on how they can improve their team, whether it's killing off 5 of their own players, whether it's getting their worst player, potentially James Wiseman, to go ahead and beat up the best player on the opposing team. It's sad. It's desperate. And it's hard to watch. I can confidently say I have watched one Pistons game this year, and it was when they almost beat the Celtics a few weeks back when they were on their 27th straight loss. Cade Cunningham is that guy. I don't know if they have a starting lineup of NBA players at this point, never mind a full team. They don't play Jaden Ivey enough. Jalen Duren looks really good. I don't know if I trust him to be a true bona fide top 10 center in the league, in 5 years. Isaiah Stewart is fine. Alec Burks is old. Bogdanovich has been hurt. I don't see a bright future for the Pistons. I think Cade Cunningham is going to want to get out of there as soon as possible. But yeah, that's my tier list for the Eastern Conference, roughly halfway through the season. As I said, it is January 23rd, so things may change drastically as we approach the deadline. But yeah, let me know what you think, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.